I'm curious about things and I want to know more. And I want to figure out ways of implementing that knowledge. I feel like I've learned things in the past that I've either lost or are buried incredibly deep, that they don't come to the surface as easy. I guess what I do is trying to figure out new ways to implement the knowledge and how to make money at it, how to do it as a business. So anybody can have fun tearing apart cars, building art sculptures. How do you turn your hobbies into an income? So I'm constantly trying to figure out ways of making money based on my knowledge.
Okay, next question is, how would you describe sign effects?
Sign effects, how would I describe sign effects? Sign effects is, it's an art studio that generates income as a commodity product and selling commodity product. The whole theory or principle behind a sign being a sculptural interpretation of graphic art is not talking about a commodity product. It's not talking about an LED or a sheet of aluminum or what it is. Sign effects is a manufacturing facility that manufactures ideas and executes ideas. It's far from just a sign company. We build signs, but just because it's an industry, and we have to fall into an industry.
We have to be classified as something, so you must be
classified as more of artists that build signs, in my mind. I think the kids that we hire from MyEd, the MyEd graduates we bring in, really enjoy the sign industry and have a new sense of respect for it because they're artists and because of the mosh pit of materials and media that we can use. The different types of metals, aluminums, steels, copper, stainless, light sources, neon, fiber optic, LEDs, fluorescents, different plastics, acrylics, polycarbonates, polyethylenes, and then thousands of ways of processing that multitude of materials. Makes it more of, and I relate it to being in high school when your art teacher gives you a box of stuff and says, make something that represents this, and all you have is a box of material. This is the biggest box. Has the most material and allows you to be incredibly diverse. So sign effects is a manufacturer that manufactures sculptural interpretation of graphic art. That's an incredible, meaningful statement.
Yeah, his follow-up question is, you largely exist where art and design and function meet, parentheses, collide. How do you blend, merge, shuffle, balance them?
Budgets. You've got to keep the studio open, and that means if we do more of the commodity type work, which may not be considered sculptural interpretation of graphic art, gas station signs, some basic advertising type or notification, increasing awareness type stuff that really doesn't doesn't strike emotion, a sign that doesn't make you go wow or give you a certain sense of feeling about the company that you're representing or about the people or about the franchise, if you don't get a certain personality behind that sign, that's a commodity product. We work really hard to keep it anything but a commodity product, which is challenging when it comes to production. Commodity products are mass production. The same materials and the same processes over and over again. You get faster, you get cheaper, you can lean manufacture. When you're trying to reinvent new processes and designs and shapes throughout, it makes it challenging. But primarily we have to have a good balance of simple work that allows for good profit. If we don't do the commodity simple work, we can't support necessarily the costs involved in wanting to learn more.
I think we may have just answered the next question, was because his follow-up question was also, how do you balance the corporate versus the artistic? So it's kind of, so we're talking about the blending and the merging of, art, design, and function. And then his follow-up question is, how do you balance the corporate versus the artistic?
Corporate versus artistic is malleable. And I compare it to a rubber. You have to be a softer durometer, meaning you have to take in things that strict artists might hold to serious guidelines. We have to be far more flexible than that. Meaning, corporate world likes to work on structure and rigid image. This is what it is, regardless of what my emotion or our team's emotion might think of that color or that shape. We can't necessarily change it. You have to be receptive to outside opinion, and that being okay, and that other people can inherently add to your artwork. Or you want to call it a sign, you can call it a sign. That just because somebody else designed it doesn't mean it's not art, and I love building other people's art just as much as I like developing my own.
Okay.
There's a big sense of gratification in developing something that people have a vision of, whether it's art or whether it's a sign. I've gotten the same set gratification out of building an incredibly cool sign for an incredibly small business, and their appreciation of that sign and how meaningful it is to them. That's where it's at. That's what I enjoy out of it. But that's why you do it, because it was a cool sign and the customer loved it. And it struck emotion, for sure. It was a very satisfying sign.
Cool. Okay, his next question is, did you really make 9-foot doors out of old glass bottles?
Yes, we did. It was for Johnson Schmaling, an architectural firm out of Milwaukee. They had a concept for the Blatz condos and house offices down on Juneau and Broadway. They wanted to hold on to some of the heritage of the building and actually replenish it by bringing in beer bottles. How you can use beer bottles in a professional setting like that, their design was incredible. It was fun to work on. They designed these 9-foot by 9-foot articulating single pivot doors, which were basically big stacks of beer bottles that they did not want encapsulated. They didn't want it supported by glass panels on either side. They actually wanted to have the dimensional element so that people could touch them, feel them. They have an incredible, they're brown beer bottles with an incredibly cool golden hue to it when light passes through it. We designed and engineered the retaining system so that you could slide out a beer bottle. If it was broken, you could replace it. It was all based on a simple reverse engineering of a six-pack ring holder, basically, but with different materials and methods. But that's where its inception was.
Good, that's good.
It was made from expanded PVC that was CNC machined. We made a bunch of prototypes. We actually built a wall. I have 28.5 cases of beer bottles hanging in my window of my office that was a replica or a sample of the beer bottle doors. We've continued to do work with Johnson Schmaling on different things, problem solving for them.
Where else can people see your work?
Sign work we do everywhere. You can see it all over Milwaukee, all over the state, the Midwest. We've done work in Louisville, we've done work in Minnesota, we've done work in Indiana, Iowa, you name it. In the Midwest, we've covered probably 5 or 6 states. Just on the, I want to call it more commodity side. When we're talking about the AFX division or the artwork, we've done work in San Diego, Sacramento, Seattle, several projects in Seattle, New York, Orlando, and we've shipped pieces as far as Canberra, Australia. Wind Leaves down at Discovery World locally was 7 art sculptures we built for an artist out of Sebastopol, California. Designed, engineered, manufactured. There's also a series of 5 kiosks down on Wisconsin Ave, on the east end, right where it meets Veterans Park. We have a rotating art sculpture called Ruach up in Port Washington. That's at First Congregational Church. We've done stuff right downtown on Water Street for Sabor, which was a great project. He wanted a canopy over his windows to keep his customers from baking and sweating while they're eating, but he didn't just want a canvas awning or regular canopy. We designed a kinetic canopy that has fins on it that ripple in the wind. Kind of a cool building element. Fun to build. Looks great as the wind's running downtown between the buildings. It's always active, it's always moving. Creates some incredible shadows on the floor. We've got sun control devices throughout the state as well. We've done a few YMCAs and their canopies above their windows. When I say canopies, I mean aluminum louvered canopies. Racine Art Museum down in Racine, we clad a 3-story building with a multi-walled acrylic panel system and backlit the whole thing. So we have 12,000 square feet of backlit acrylic panels that emulate kind of like a Chinese lantern, because you have some trust members that we designed and engineered that support the acrylic. I think it's on a schedule to illuminate at 10 o'clock every night. That may have changed. We did a project, another one down in Racine for the M&I Bank building. Countless retail strip malls, stuff like that.